All right, so let's go back to this good versus bad. Now I just wanted to tell you guys, about, the different structures so that when we start talking about good versus bad, it would make more sense to you. So as it turns out, evolution has favored a steady digestion of complex carbs to keep a steady glucose concentration in your blood. Okay, so if you consume complex or good carbs, which we would consider the complex carbohydrates, and especially in the form of whole grains, because you can have, wheat bread that's made of starch that you would consider a complex carbohydrate. But if the wheat bread has been highly refined, then it's wheat because it's made out of wheat flour, but it's white. It's so processed that it's lost all of the original color that was in the plant. And that original color came from, the husk and whatnot of the grains, and that's where the vitamins are stored. So if you strip away everything but the starch, you strip away the vitamins and the fiber and the minerals and the parts of the nutrients of the grain that give you a balanced diet. So that's when we say complex carbs. Then it's, obviously bread, white bread is better than a teaspoon of sugar because your body does have to break down that starch to a certain degree. But the more complex, the slower the digestion, the slower the release of glucose into your bloodstream. And so that's really the big story behind the good versus the bad, is what's packaged with the glucose. Are there vitamins and nutrients and other minerals still with it? And how many chemical bonds still exist? How long will it take to break down and digest? And the reason why you want it to go slow is because consuming large amounts of simple sugars dumps too much glucose in your bloodstream too fast. So if all that glucose isn't needed and the glycogen reserves are full, the glucose is just turned into saturated fatty acids and then stored in the body as triglycerides in adipose cells, which are fat cells. Okay, so that's the big deal about good versus bad. The good is complex and it carries vitamins and other minerals with it. The bad is the simple, either mono or disaccharides, and even highly refined, for example, flours like wheat flour has partially already digested the starch for you, and that starch goes into your bloodstream pretty fast as well. Okay, so we want more complex carbohydrates. That's what's good. All right. Whoops. Okay, let me see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you about all this. Okay, I think I hit the important points. I encourage you to read more about this because I'm going through this pretty quickly, but I just needed to give you the bottom line of what a monosaccharide, disaccharide, polysaccharides are, and what the difference between good and bad carbs are. And in the food guide pyramid, you are encouraged to eat mostly whole grains, and then vegetables, and then fruits. Fruits, even though they contain simple sugars, they also contain a lot of water, fiber, and nutrients, vitamins and minerals. Okay, so fruit sparingly. All right, so the last thing I want to mention here is sugar substitutes. Because the Western diet has become so refined over the last 100 years, and food processing has become so much cheaper, what's happened is the food market has been flooded with cheap processed foods that have a relatively low nutrient content compared to calorie content. All right, and so what's happened then is people have become increasingly unhealthy from eating this type of food. So to respond to that, the food scientists have come up with sugar substitutes, okay? Because the simple sugars, the mono and disaccharides, have been shown to cause health problems. For example, tooth decay. Getting sugar in the form of soda and chewing gum and that sort of thing has led to tooth decay. Weight gain, because if you eat too much of these simple sugars and they get into your bloodstream faster than your body can deal with the glucose then has to be cleared from your bloodstream, and so it is processed and turned into saturated fat. And then also the simple sugars are not tolerated by diabetics. So the food industry's made sugar substitutes to allow people to enjoy food, but to limit the bad side effects of too much sugar. Okay, and so what I want you guys to do next is to investigate sugar substitutes on your own a little bit. I want you to work in small groups to complete the sugar substitute activity that your teacher will provide to you. And you should be, at the end of working out this activity, which requires a little bit of reading and a little bit of research, you should be able to answer the following question about the weight of sugar-free chewing gum before and after chewing after working through this provided sugar substitute activity. And the question that you ought to be able to answer after all of this is, if you weigh regular chewing gum before and after chewing the gum versus sugar-free chewing gum before and after chewing the gum, why does the sugar-free gum made with sugar alcohol change in mass similar to regular chewing gum, whereas the chewing gum made with aspartame changes in mass to a much lesser degree? Okay, so on your own then, to answer this question, you're going to have to figure out what is sugar alcohol, what is aspartame, and what I'm talking about here about the weight before and after chewing the gum. Okay, so those questions you can answer on your own, and at the end of the activity you should know a little bit about sugar substitutes and why they're so popular, and some things that are good about it and some things that are bad about it. I think I wanted to tell you one more thing also, and that has to do with diabetes. I just wanted to point out that there's different types of diabetes. There's type 1 and type 2. And the type 1 used to be called like childhood diabetes. That's the type of diabetes that usually young children get, and it's a result of their body stops producing insulin because something has happened to their pancreas. A lot of times it's attacked by a virus, and so they stop producing insulin. So those are insulin-dependent diabetics. They have to have insulin in order to survive. Type 2 is sometimes called adult-onset diabetes, and that's usually a result of sort of lifestyle habits, and also there's some genetic predisposition, but it has to do with your body, your cells get confused by having so much insulin flowing in the bloodstream so long, and so your cells stop responding to insulin. Okay, and the job of insulin, and so sometimes type 2 diabetes can be managed with diet, and sometimes they also need to take insulin. It just depends on the stage of the type 2 and other factors. But anyway, this is normally a lifestyle / genetic predisposition. Alrighty. And I just wanted to tell you, since I've mentioned insulin several times in diabetes, that insulin, of course, is a little hormone. It's a little protein molecule that is a chemical messenger that signals to cells to allow the cells to open the glucose channels and allow glucose to be taken up by the cells so that it can be metabolized. All right, so insulin is a little chemical messenger, and when the blood glucose level goes up, insulin is released, and then cells are alerted that they can open up. And so you need to have insulin because your cells need glucose in order to provide the energy to run the body. Okay, we'll talk more about energy in a little bit. So that's it. Enjoy working on your sugar substitute activity together.